Stewart Stevenson.
Presiding officer, by this stage of a debate, much of what can be said will generally have been said. But this subject is so wide, encompassing everything we do and every person in Scotland and indeed world, it's unlikely to be the case today. Now, I speak as somebody who is vulnerable by reason of age. I've been actually fitter than I've been for many years. In the 8 weeks that I've been absent from Parliament, I've walked about 300 miles, so my body's fitter. I've been able to write a daily diary, so far 62,000 words, so my mind's fitter. Mens sana in corpore sano. But as a parliamentarian, I'm exceptionally privileged, as we all are, compared to most of our fellow citizens. My income is unaffected, and in my case, I no longer have to spend 12 to 14 hours per week travelling. I'm missing most of you, but I barely miss some of you at all. No names, no Patrick. But my anxieties are considerably less than members of the public. We've heard much of the immense contribution of those, especially in health and care professions, who are especially at risk because of their meeting many people who are unwell. But not simply them, all those who continue to support us directly, posties in shops, and many others are equally valuable. Now, at my age, it means that my immune system is less effective than it once was, probably. People of any age with a compromised immune system need to be especially protected. But we should have no assumptions about anyone else, and they should all be treated equally. There's reference being made to people with a range of conditions that don't create extra risk. We should treat them with respect. The R numbers come up a number of times, most recently by Liz Smith, and I want to just say one or two things about that. It is a statistically derived number informed by data from a range of sources. Sources include data from Registers of Scotland, the cause of death may be of high certainty informed by a positive test, or it may be from a clinical judgment where there's been no test. The high degree of variability in COVID-19 symptoms means that some will be missed, and for others, the symptoms will falsely point at COVID-19. Many medical practitioners providing certification will have had no prior experience of the disease. So there is uncertainty there. These numbers also follow infections by probably a week, possibly longer. Testing too is difficult. The current tests rely on a swab from the throat. A swab from the mouth won't do. And any swab in the throat provokes a choke effect. So it's difficult for patient and the medical person administering the test. The uncertainty here will be a little bit greater, but the data will be more recent. But it's not zero uncertainty from this. Self-diagnosis by people with milder symptoms who self-isolate after experiencing them also contributes to some extent to the numbers. So let's just make up a few numbers. Now, these are not real numbers. 96% of reports to the Register of Scotland are correct. 95% of medical practitioners get the diagnosis right. There are many bits of research that say it's as low as 50%. I suspect that's too pessimistic. And 80% of people self-diagnosing get it right. With equal weight to these factors, we get a 72% certainty about the R number. Now, the 96 and 95 sound high. Suppose they're 80 and 80. That takes the certainty down to 50%. So statisticians have very vigorous debate about how much they should rely on the data they get and the weight they should give to each factor. So the R0 number cannot be the precise number that we would all like it to be. Now, what I've said is a gross oversimplification of how we get to the R0, but hopefully it illustrates why I will, if I hear someone come forward with a single number that claims the number, I'll stop relying on that number. A quick word about business. It will certainly be very different in the years to come from a year ago. Gillian Martin spoke about people who are suffering from the effects in their business lives. But perhaps one of the most important things we might think about that I haven't heard spoken about yet is what we do about young companies that are at a stage in their development that means they have negative cash flows. Somewhere in that lot are the companies that are successes of the future. We need them. Finally, a very brief word about messaging. The stay-at-home message has been self-explanatory and widely respected. Now, we as politicians get bored with messages much quicker than the general population. Why? Because we are constantly repeating them and hearing ourselves saying them. We get bored. That boredom is something we've got to tolerate more than we have been until the public tell us it's time to refresh the message. Thank you, Presiding Officer.